Imagine a trial where the defendant had already been dead for months. It sounds like a horror story or fiction, but it isn't. In 897, in Rome, Pope Formosus was exhumed, dressed in his papal robes, and brought to court to be judged for crimes he allegedly committed during his lifetime. This surreal episode became known as the Cadaver Synod and is still considered one of the most bizarre moments in the history of the Catholic Church. Today, you will discover all the details of this dark story of power, revenge, and madness. In the 9th century, Rome was not only the spiritual center of Christianity, but also a political battlefield. Noble families fought fiercely for influence over the papacy. Corruption, betrayal, and even murder were common in this turbulent period. Pope Formosus, who ruled from 891 to 896, was not immune to these conflicts. He had served as bishop, ambassador, and eventually pope. Formosus formed powerful alliances, but also gained many influential enemies. Despite his death in 896, these disputes did not end with him. On the contrary, his memory became a pawn in an even darker political game. And this is where Pope Stephen VI comes in, his successor who decided to take the rivalry beyond the grave. When Stephen VI assumed the papacy, he was under intense pressure from factions opposed to Formosus. To consolidate his power, he needed to completely destroy his predecessor's legacy. Then an unprecedented decision was made. Formosus's body would be exhumed to face a posthumous trial. Yes, you heard that right. A trial against a corpse. The body, already in an advanced state of decay, was removed from its tomb and dressed once again in papal robes. It was then placed on a chair inside the Basilica of St. John Lateran, the location of the trial. All of Rome was talking about the macabre spectacle that was about to unfold. The court would not only have judges and cardinals, but also the terrifying silence of a dead man seated before them all. The day of the trial arrived. The basilica was packed with clergy, nobles, and curious onlookers. In the center, on an improvised throne, sat the body of Formosus, dressed as pope. His cadaverous, motionless face contrasted sharply with the solemn atmosphere. To make the scene even stranger, a deacon was appointed to act as the corpse's defense lawyer, answering the accusations on its behalf. The judges accused Formosus of crimes such as perjury and illegitimately assuming the papacy. The accusations were read aloud, and the heavy silence was only broken by the forced response of the deacon. Pope Formosus is innocent. Imagine the scene. An entire court debating the guilt or innocence of a man who had been dead for months. It was more a ritual of humiliation than a true trial. The verdict could only be guilty. Then began the most grotesque part of the ritual. The papal robes were stripped from his body as a symbolic act of dishonor. Next, the 3 fingers of his right hand used for blessings were cut off. Finally, the mutilated body was dragged through the streets and thrown into the Tiber River as if he were a common criminal. Stephen VI's message was clear. Formosus's name must be erased from history. But the effect was exactly the opposite. The people of Rome were horrified by the trial. Many saw it as desecration, a disrespect not only to the Pope but to the sacred itself. The revolt against Stephen VI grew quickly. Soon after, the Pope who had orchestrated the macabre trial was deposed, imprisoned, and strangled in his cell. Ironically, his fate was marked by the same violence he had sown. Subsequent popes sought to correct the error. They annulled the trial against Formosus and restored his honor. But the mark left by the Cadaver Synod was never erased. This episode remains a dark reminder of how far power and politics can distort even the most sacred rituals. A mix of grotesque theater, revenge, and insanity that history has never forgotten. A trial against a dead man. Surreal, isn't it? But that's exactly what happened in Rome in the year 897. And now I want to hear your opinion. Do Do you think this trial was a form of justice or merely a display of madness and power? Leave your answer in the comments. If you enjoyed this bizarre story and want to discover more dark and surprising secrets from history, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because there are still many unbelievable stories waiting to be told.